Huston Smith is an authority on the world's major religions. He's taught at MIT and UC Berkeley. He's written 15 books, including his latest, Tales of Wonder, Adventures Chasing the Divine. In this interview, he talks about the relationship between science and religion, evolution, the brain as a reducing valve, the Good Friday experiment at Boston College, in which mescaline was administered, his friendship with Aldous Huxley, the capacity of certain psychedelics to produce mystical states, and his enthusiasm for life. Science and religion often seem to exclude each other. How can science and religion come together in the search for ultimate truth?
Well, by recognizing what science is. Science deals only with the material world that we can observe and then eventually come to controlled experiment so we know the laws by which things work. But to come to terms with religion or the rest of life, one has to realize the limitations of science, and that it deals only with the physical, but that's not all there is. Nobody has ever seen a thought. Nobody has ever seen a feeling, and yet thoughts and feeling are the primary medium in which we live. We're living right now in our conversation. So there would be no problem, there's no problem with science. The problem is with, and it's forced me to coin a word, scientism. Science is good. Scientism, the view that it's the only reliable way of truth, is very bad.
People who have near-death experiences describe an altered reality that is somehow congruent with quantum physics. But in the old science, it's ruled by what Dr. Amit Goswami, a physicist, calls upward causation. And from this we get the idea of evolution, from atoms to molecules to cells to brain, and from brain to consciousness as an epiphenomenon of the brain. In this point of view, matter is the ground of all being. But what near-death experiencers are showing us is what Dr. Goswami calls downward causation. In this view of the world, consciousness, not matter, is the ground of all being. So that God is kind of a super consciousness. Near-death experiencers feel that they come from this consciousness, and that this consciousness is their home. My question is, can evolution as upward causation exist with God as downward causation? In other words, can consciousness, can life be a product of both?
All right. There's only one view. Downward causation. Lauren Isley and another world-class scientist whose name escapes me, they say more and more the world, the universe, is beginning to look like a great thought, not a great thing. And that, right, and downward causation, we've spoken of this before, of the mind being a reducing valve, in principle omniscient, but we couldn't manage if we with that omniscience, so it has to be reduced to this. Now, this may make us take us a little far afield, but you say the 2 points of view, and I contradicted you. There is only one. There is no evolution. Now, that sounds so startling that I'm afraid I may lose all my credibility in making that, and people just turn off the video and just count me out. But I sincerely believe that that is the case, that there are four, to my mind, knockdown reasons against upward causation known as evolution. First is logical. The more cannot come from the less. Number two is biological. Mothers always give birth to their own kind. The third is statistical. A cell is so complicated that the chances that it just emerged by accident, it's so infinitesimally small that we don't even have numbers. You can't even put it in numbers, how unlikely that is. And teleological. Deaf, dumb, blind matter could not give rise to hearing, seeing, and speaking. As for the fossil record, it constitutes perhaps the severest challenge to the evolutionary hypotheses. The gaps between the various forms of life preserved in fossils, are immense. So much so that Darwin himself coined the phrase missing links. He realized that was the weak point in his hypothesis, but he had faith that those missing links between various stages of life would be discovered in time. However, in 150 years of intensive search, not a single missing link has been discovered. So I think that is, to my mind, clear evidence that we did not evolve.
So how did we get here?
Who knows? How did the world get here? I mean, I think logically it was created by a perfect intelligence that created the universe.
So downward causation.
Now you can call it, religious people call that perfect being God. But by whatsoever name, the miracle happened. The universe happened. And we are, or should be, and I certainly am, grateful that I am a part of that miracle that happened.
You participated in the Good Friday experiment at Cambridge, in which mescaline was introduced to the congregants. What was that experience like for you?
Well, it was a controlled experiment in which there was a control group, and they were given something, the little nicotine acid or something, that gave them a buzz that would make them think they had the substance, but they really didn't. And then that was the control group, and then there was the experimental group. I was in the experimental group, and well, it was utterly unexpected and extraordinary.
What happened?
I remember there was a 3-hour Good Friday service in the chapel upstairs, and it was piped down into this lower, smaller chapel, which was sealed off from the rest of the world. And well, in part of it, why at one point a beautiful soloist sang, and I can still remember, "My times are in your hand, O Lord, I will them there. My soul, my heart, my life, my all, I will them to thy care." Now that conclusion is as trite conclusion as you can dun, it goes up dun dee 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 da dee, and at that moment, you know, I had the most profound religious experience I have ever had. I mean, yes, I was saying it exactly as I felt. What was it like for me?
Yeah.
It produced the profound profound. I just cannot imagine it being more intense and real than that experience that I of just wanting nothing but God and feeling nothing but God.
That does sound wonderful. I'm wondering, is a chemically induced mystical experience different from a spontaneous mystical experience? Perhaps a mystical experience born of religious practice?
Well, as far as the vision, the content, only the real, genuine, authentic mystic would experience that. The rest of us cannot experience that without some help.
Mm-hmm.
But Aldous Huxley, whose doors of perception put me on to this subject, said that he experienced the nearest thing imaginable to the beatific experience. And I knew him. We had a 30-year friendship. And I said, what did it lack that the beatific experience had? And he said, carryover. If you had the beatific experience, why then it would change your life. And
like a near-death experience does, perhaps.
And so the point is not altered states, but altered traits
I see.
of life.
Mm-hmm.
So these injections can produce the altered state, but they cannot produce the altered traits, change in behavior for the better.
I think the Upanishads were inspired by something called soma, which is generally considered to be a psychedelic mushroom drink. And in the Eleusinian Mysteries, the experience there was inspired by the kaikion, a drink that people took when they went into the initiation chamber, which was an ergot drink, as it's
Right.
thought. My question is, what value have psychedelics had in the evolution of religion? I know that in the Eleusinian Mysteries you had to go through a lot of preparation before you actually entered the initiation chamber. It went on for months. So there was some training. So again, what value have psychedelics had in the evolution of religion?
Value, I'm balking on that word. What influence?
Okay.
Would that be all right?
Sure.
What influence? Is it legal even, not to say appropriate, in being interviewed like this, to say at some point, I don't know. Because I think that we are religious animals. Human beings are religious animals. But I don't know about the stages.
Right.
I think that without entheogens, the history of religion worldwide would have been much the same as it has been.
I see. You cited Aldous Huxley and his book, The Perennial Philosophy, which I think in some ways changed the course of your life. What was Aldous Huxley like? Would you consider him to be a religious person?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The most amazing person I have ever met. His knowledge was encyclopedic, and he also his competence bored him, so he went into things like the sight without glasses, and which he changed the art of seeing, and his knowledge was, as I say, encyclopedic. Stravinsky said knowing Huxley was like having the Library of Congress at the other end of the telephone line. One evening he called Aldous and said, what can you tell me about the derivation of scissors? And Huxley just told him on the end of the line. His capacity for conversation was extraordinary. I have been in restaurants with him where the people in the adjacent tables fell silent, just hoping to hear some words from this man of wisdom. Plus being kind. Once when I brought him to MIT as a visiting distinguished professor for a semester, and every college in New York wanted him for a lecture, and I drove him because I wanted to spend every moment of my time with him that I could. And once after his lecture, and we were driving back to our quarters in Cambridge, he said, you know, Huston, it's a little bit embarrassing to have spent one's whole life pondering the human condition and to come up with nothing more profound in the way of advice to other people than try to be a little kinder.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You have interviewed many, many important people in the course of your life. Can you think of one instance, one interaction with someone that did change the course of your life?
Well, I don't know how I would have any vantage point in answering that. In one sense, why every significant encounter changes one's life. My courtship and marriage to Kendra changed my life, certainly. But I have no take on what my life would have been like had I not met and married her.
Right.
So there's no point of comparison.
Mm-hmm. You've had such a long and colorful life, growing up in China, where your parents were missionaries. Do you ever wake up in the morning and think back on your long life and realize with a start that you are the world-renowned scholar of religion, Huston Smith?
No.
You don't?
Heavens, no. I'm just me. But I will make this claim that from as far as back as I can remember, I have found myself enthusiastic about life, enthusiastic about the people that I meet, enthusiastic that I was able to be a teacher, professor, and that I could write books. So there would be this enthusiasm was there, but the way you put that you are the Huston, that's crazy for the birds.
Right, but you use the word enthusiasm, and enthusiasm has a particularly potent meaning to it. It means to be filled with God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the way I sense this enthusiasm is the spark of the divine that is within all of us.
Mm-hmm.